please all stand.
This coroner's court is now sitting.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Your Honour. Mr Van Latham is on screen and ready to be sworn in.
Oh, great. Can't see him yet.
We just paused his vision until the live stream was working.
Oh, there, Antoine. Can you see and hear us?
Yes, I can.
Oh, good. You'll just hear from the court officer now.
Silence, please. Do you solemnly and sincerely declare and affirm that the evidence you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, please say, I do.
I do.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr Van Latham.
Mr Van Latham, is your full name Antoine Van Latham?
Yes, it is.
And is Van Latham spelt V-A-N and the new word L-A-E-T-H-E-M?
It is.
Is it all right if I call you Antoine today?
Yes.
You gave a statement in relation to this investigation to Heidelberg Police Station on the 11th of June 2019. Do you have a copy of that statement with you today?
Yeah, I do.
Have you had a chance to review it recently?
Yes, 2 weeks ago.
When you reviewed it, was it a true and accurate statement to the best of your knowledge?
It is.
And you also had a meeting with the legal team assisting the coroner in 2020?
Yes.
And then you produced a statement which you signed on the 23rd of November 2020?
I think so.
Do you also have a copy of that statement, the second statement?
Yes, on my computer.
And is that also a true and accurate statement to the best of your knowledge?
It is.
Today, Antoine, we're going to work through that statement slowly, and then I'm going to ask you some additional questions as well.
Mm-hmm.
We understand that you've had a busy week last week doing exams, and it's very early in the morning in Belgium. Is that correct?
It is.
Thank you for your time and for your patience. If we could start with 2019 and you being in Australia, you had come from Belgium to Australia for a holiday, is that right?
Not really holidays, but it was a break from university.
You were on a working visa?
Yes.
We know that you arrived in Byron Bay on the 30th of May 2019. How long had you been in Australia before you came to Byron Bay?
I think I arrived in the early March, or mid-March.
And when did you leave Australia?
Mid of July or early July.
And was this your first visit to Australia?
Yes, it was.
And this, when you went to Byron Bay on the 30th of May, was that your first visit to Byron Bay?
It was, yeah.
You say in your statement that just before you went to Byron, you were working at a campground in a location south of Byron Bay, but in your statement you say you couldn't remember the name of the place where that was. Do you know now where that was, that campground south of Byron Bay?
I think it was Crescent Head.
Crescent Head.
I'm not sure, but I think so.
You think so? Was it
Yeah.
the same? It was the same campground where you met Alexander Stadgaard, is that right?
I don't remember who was Alexander. Actually.
You're not sure if he was there?
Sorry?
You're not sure if Sander was there at the campground when you were there?
Oh, yes, it was. Yeah, Sander, yeah. It was the place where I met him.
I see. And before you went to Byron Bay or after, did you ever go to a place south of Byron Bay called Korakai or Korakai?
No, I don't think so.
I'll spell it for you. Koraki. Does that ring any bells at all?
Not really.
I'll take you now to your time in Byron Bay. The first night that you were in Byron Bay, you were staying at the Wake Up Hostel, is that right?
Yes.
You went out that night to Cheeky Monkeys?
Mm-hmm.
And this was with your friends Sasha, Michael and Tobias, is this right?
I think so, yes.
Do you remember why you decided that night to go to Cheeky Monkeys?
I don't remember why, but I think I just followed the people I met.
Do you remember whether there was anything on offer to the guests at Wake Up Hostel, like cheap drinks or free drinks or anything of that nature?
No, nothing.
Do you know what time you went to Cheeky Monkeys on that first night, the 30th of May?
I don't remember, but surely after dinner. And
Did you catch the Wake Up Hostel shuttle bus to Cheeky Monkeys? Is that how you got there?
I think so, yes.
You say in your statement that you weren't feeling well, you were tired and a bit sick, is that right?
Yes.
Was that, and you also said you were a bit sick when you were at the campsite. Can you tell us what sort of sickness that was?
I worked at the campsite for a little bit more than a week, I think, and then I just got sick because of the humidity and the poor condition of the housing in the campsite.
I'm sorry, I just didn't hear the last part of your answer.
So I got sick because of the humidity at the campsite and the poor conditions of the housing there.
Or the conditions of the housing, is that right?
Yes.
I see.
Poor air conditioning, was it? Or
Poor conditions. Was it poor conditions or poor air conditioning?
The conditions. I don't know how to say.
yes, that's right. Air condition. Or poor condition. Is it the air condition machine or just the condition of the house?
The conditions of the house. Yeah.
It was just not comfortable at all.
Yes, and really humid and yeah.
And so you were still feeling a bit sick on the 30th of May. Were you feeling better on the 31st of May?
Yeah, I think so.
We know from your statements that on the 31st of May you went on a long walk with Sander. Sander was a friend that you'd met when you were working at Crescent Head, is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And you went on a long walk with him to the lighthouse at Byron Bay. Do you remember that now?
Yeah.
Do you remember why you decided to go to the lighthouse?
No, we just wanted to have a walk at Byron Bay, and I think we firstly went to the groceries, and then we had a walk along the beach until the end of the beach.
It's quite a long walk, the lighthouse walk.
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
Yes.
Had the lighthouse been somewhere that you'd heard about beforehand as a nice thing about Byron Bay?
Just maybe the view from the lighthouse.
Mm-hmm. And Her Honour heard some evidence from Sander last week that it was a very beautiful walk. Is that how you remember it as well?
Yeah, it was a pretty sunny day, and so yeah, it was a good walk.
Yes. And after you did the walk, did Sander go back to his? He wasn't staying at the Wake Up, was he? He was staying somewhere else.
Yeah, in an other hostel.
Yeah. And did you make a plan to meet up later that night?
I think so. Yeah.
Do you remember, Antoine, now if you were planning to go out to a bar or a nightclub at that stage? Were you planning in the afternoon that night you might go out again?
I don't really recall, but I remember that I asked him to come over my hostel that night, but I don't remember any other details.
The 31st, we know that you left Byron Bay on the 1st of June, so the 31st was your last night in Byron Bay?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And the night before you hadn't been feeling very well. Do you think you might have been looking forward to having a night out and enjoying the nightlife of Byron Bay that night on the Friday night?
Not really. I don't think so.
Had you heard anything about Byron Bay as being a good place to go to town or to go out?
Yeah, I heard from some people that it was a nice place to visit and go through, but not that much, I think, except maybe for the nightlife. But I wasn't really interested into it.
You weren't very into it?
No, I wasn't. I don't think so.
The reason I'm asking you these questions, Antoine, is we're just trying to understand whether there was a plan like is normal for young backpackers who want to have fun. Was there a plan to go out, have a nice time, have a few drinks in the town? Was that the sort of plan that you had already in the afternoon?
I don't really remember. The only thing I remember is that I think we planned to have at least dinner or something that night together with Sander, but I don't recall the purpose of night early in the afternoon. No.
And was there any particular plan to go to Cheeky Monkeys at that stage, or was that not a plan at that stage?
I don't think it was a plan at that stage, no.
You say in your statement that when you got back to the hostel, you met two British girls in the little cottage where you were staying?
Yes.
I think their names are Eden and Ellen. Does that sound right?
It sounds right, yeah.
Were they friendly, outgoing British girls?
Yes.
Were you talking to them about maybe doing something that night, like going out or doing something fun in Byron Bay?
I don't remember, actually. But I remember that we talked a little bit during the evening, yeah.
You went to a barbecue or a sort of maybe it was a burger night that night at Wake Up Hostel, is that right?
Yes.
And they have an outdoor area, like an outdoor terrace, and you can get some food for a certain price, is that right?
Yes.
And you went there with Sasha and Michael, your friends, is that right?
I don't remember with Marco, but I remember Sasha.
And did you go together, or did you meet them when you arrived?
I don't remember, sorry.
Do you remember anything about the food that you had that night?
Yeah, it was like barbecue, and then we sat down on the table outside.
And
I think there were like sausages, and I don't remember the food itself.
when you sat down, did you sit down at the same table as Sasha?
I think so, yes.
And is that where you met Theo?
Yes.
Do you remember, and I know this is 2 years ago, Antoine, we're just doing our best to find every piece of information we can. Do you remember if Theo was eating or had a plate of food when you met him?
Yes, I think he had food.
Was he talking to someone else when you first sat down?
I don't really remember, but I suppose too.
What do you remember? What's the first thing you remember about Theo and meeting Theo. Could you tell Her Honour a bit about what happened at that point?
I remember that we started to chat together, and that we started chatting in English, and then we realized that we were both French speakers, and then we realized that we were both from Brussels, and then we chatted in French.
Yes. And were the other people at the table, do you know if they were French speakers?
Sasha, I think, was a French speaker.
Did you introduce Theo to Sasha?
I don't recall, but I suppose.
I imagine at a barbecue at a backpackers, it's not a formal situation.
No.
Yeah, but people talk to each other and they introduce each other and they chat to try and get to know each other. Is that right?
Yes.
Being both from Brussels, did you see who you had in common or who you might know from school and things of that nature?
Yeah, we checked on Facebook if we had some friends in common. Or, yeah.
You say in your statement, Theo struck me as someone who was quite open-minded and someone who could speak easily to people. Is that right?
Yes.
What was open-minded about him? What gave you that impression?
When I met him, he seemed really friendly, and we just started to speak a lot, and it seemed natural, and yes.
We have an expression here that you click. Did you click?
What do you mean?
You immediately got on well, like it was very easy to talk to each other.
Yes.
Yes. People have described Theo as friendly and funny. Is that a fair description?
I think so, yes.
They also say, though, that he wasn't loud or outgoing. Was that your impression?
Yes.
Did you go through some of the things that you remember talking about in your statement, and you also told the police some of these things? He was doing an engineering degree in September.
He was about to start, yes.
I think he had to do an exam to get into the degree. Is that right?
I think so, yes.
But he seemed excited to be doing that. Was that your impression?
Yes.
And you also say he told you that he worked at the Australian Open in Melbourne.
Yes.
Is there anything else you could tell the coroner about what you remember about the conversation, or what, for example, what Theo told you about his trip and what he had been doing?
He explained me that he was about to leave Australia and that he was pretty excited to go back home and meet his friends. Mm-hmm. And he just talked about Brussels and yes, I think that's pretty much all.
Was he more focused on talking about Brussels than he was on talking about the things he'd done in Australia?
I think so, yes.
Do you remember him saying anything about what he wanted to do at Byron Bay, or asking you what is good to do here in Byron Bay?
No, because I think I told him that I just arrived in Byron Bay.
We've heard some evidence during this week and last week that backpackers and travellers, they tell each other, I just did this, I just did that, you should try this. Was there any kind of conversation like that?
I think I may have explained to him that I had a walk along the beach and to the lighthouse with Sander, but I don't. And I've explained to him that I had a trip on the west coast before, but I think that's all.
Do you know whether he showed any interest in going to the lighthouse or going for a walk on the beach?
No, I don't.
We know that Theo liked surfing. Did he say anything about the famous surf at Byron Bay?
And I don't really recall, but I remember something about maybe he said, I don't know if it's him or someone else, but saying that we could rent surfboards from the hostel, but I'm not sure it was him or someone else.
I think that night it was a cold night. You said in your statement you were wearing a jacket. Is that right?
Yes.
And that it doesn't get very cold in Australia. It gets colder in Belgium. It was cold even to you that night.
Yeah, it was yeah.
Was it? I know this is a lot of detail for a long time ago, but was it a windy night? Do you recall anything about the wind being cold?
I don't think it was windy, but just like really cold and yeah. But I don't think that it was windy.
We have a message from Theo that was sent at 6:12 at 6:12 p.m. Do you remember if he used his phone at all while he was talking to you? I know that you were looking at Facebook.
Can you repeat, please?
We know that Theo sent a text message to one of his family at 6:12 p.m. that night.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember Theo using his phone to send a message when he was talking to you?
No, I don't think. I don't remember actually if he used.
There was a point when you were looking at Facebook to see which friends you might have had in common. Apart from that, do you recall him doing anything with his phone while he was talking to you?
No, it didn't appear to me that he was like on his phone. So no.
Some people, when they're talking, they're always just. It wasn't like that.
No, he wasn't scrolling. No.
You said in your statement that for most of that time, it was just you and him talking. It wasn't other people. Is that right?
Yes.
We know that at some point you decided to go and get some wine from town.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Can you tell us why you decided to go into town to get the wine?
So I think it's the moments where we talked with the two other British girls around another table, and maybe with Sasha and Sander, and then we were just talking, and they started, I think, drinking. So we were wondering if we could then just grab something in the town and then come back. And I think that was the reason. We
know that there was somewhere to buy beer and wine actually at Wake Up. Why not just buy some beer or wine at Wake Up?
I don't really remember. We could buy food there, but I think it was even like cheaper in the center.
Mm-hmm. So do you remember how it came to be that you agreed that you'd go to town to buy that? Do you remember anything more about that?
No, except that we would just take the shuttle and come back with the shuttle.
You caught the shuttle?
Yes.
Just before you caught the shuttle, did Theo go back to his room briefly?
I don't recall.
You don't recall whether he went on his own or whether you went with him just back to his room quickly before you went to the shuttle?
Yes, I don't remember this.
Okay. You took the Wake Up shuttle into town. In your statement, you say it was 7:38. How do you know it was 7:38 exactly?
I think I used Google Timelines.
Oh, I see. You used your Google timeline to get the time.
Okay.
Yes.
And then the shuttle ride to town. Had you done that before? Do you know whether you did that the night before?
I think so. Yes.
We understand that the shuttle drops you off at the Tourist Information Centre. How did you how did you get from the Tourist Information Centre to the bottle shop? Do you remember did you look that up on your phone or did you just walk? What did you do to get to the bottle
I
shop?
think we definitely just looked on Google Maps.
Do you remember if it was you on Google Maps or Theo on Google Maps?
No, I don't.
We have some footage, Antoine, of the two of you in the bottle shop. We're going to see if we can show it to you, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Just bear with us for a moment while we load it. Can you see anything on the screen at the moment?
Yes.
Okay. Is that Theo, Antoine, and you?
It is correct.
Do you recall, just as you look at this footage, do you remember if you were talking about what you might buy, what you might choose to drink?
I don't really remember, but I guess.
Can you see that Theo seems to be asking at this point, and the man's pointing? Do you remember what he asked for?
Cheap wine, I guess.
Cheap wine. Do you see how do you see how Theo made a gesture with his hands? We're going to try and take it back so I can show you. Just watch the oh no, we'll have to take it back a bit more, sorry. Do you see that gesture he made there, Antoine?
Can you replay it, please?
We'll try it again.
Okay.
Did you see that?
Yeah, I think we were looking for a case, like a goon.
A case of goon?
Yes.
So was he saying we want something big? A big box of wine?
I think to show, like a box. Yes.
Yes. And was the plan at that stage that you were going to get wine just for the two of you, or were you thinking that you might share it with a group, or what was the plan?
I don't really remember, but I guess the point was to share with some others.
With some others?
Yes, I guess.
Was there conversation about, well, how much do you want to have to drink tonight? Are you going to have a lot? Shall we?
No.
No?
No, I don't think so.
Was there a conversation about whether you'd buy a 2 litre cask or a 4 litre cask or a 1 litre cask, like how much you were going to get?
I think it's regular size.
Regular size.
Yes.
Theo seems to have selected the wine. Is that how you remember it, or was it something you did together?
I think we did together.
Was there a conversation about who would pay?
I think I paid, and then he paid the Uber to get back.
I'll just pause there.
If I remember well.
It looks like he held out some money, and then to you to be polite or nice, got in first and paid first. Is that what happened?
Sorry, can you repeat?
It looks like he went to pay, and then you were being nice, and you got in first and you paid first. Do you recall that happening?
I think so, yes.
And then did he say at that point that he would pay for an Uber, or did that happen later that you talked about the
I
Uber?
think we would just make an arrangement later.
Okay. I'm just going to keep asking you a little bit more about the wine, Antoine, because it's important to understand how much Theo had to drink, and that's why I'm asking you so many questions about it. But you went to the bottle shop because it was cheaper than the hostel, but you bought a 2-litre cask when a 1-litre cask would have been cheaper.
Objection.
Yes.
I'm not sure that 1-litre casks exist, Your Honour. I've had a look and haven't been able to find them.
I'll defer to my friend on that point. Sorry, Antoine. Were you looking for a cheaper, smaller type of wine, or do you think you bought the cheapest that there was?
I think it was just one of the cheapest, and as I said earlier, I think it's regular size.
Regular.
And I don't think we could find wine at the hostel. I remember there was maybe a beer distributor, but I don't think they sell wine there.
And did you like wine better than beer, or what? Why did you want wine?
Because it's just cheaper.
Because it's cheaper. And you say in your statement that you're used to drinking more in Belgium. Did 2 litres seem like a lot to you for 2 people, or did that seem like a normal amount for 2 people?
For wine, it's maybe a lot for 2 people.
And so do you know why you bought 2 litres if it was just going to be for the 2 of you? Or I think you said that you thought you might share it with some of the other travellers. Is that right?
Yes, I guess. Or maybe we could even use it there. I don't know.
Maybe you could use it. What was that?
Maybe if we didn't need to finish it, or we could just use what's remaining for another day, or I don't know.
Was there anything discussed about I want to have a lot tonight, or I'm ready to have a drink tonight, or anything like that you remember Theo saying about drinking, or how much he wanted to drink?
Not really, but I remember that the atmosphere at the barbecue was nice, and that people wanted to go out after. So I guess everyone was in the mood to have a drink.
And was it, when you say the atmosphere at the barbecue was nice, was that before you left or after you got back, or both?
Both.
Both. We'll just finish this portion of the footage to see if it makes you remember anything else about this time. Can you remember anything else about that time in the bottle shop, having seen that, Antoine?
No.
I think you said in your statement that you caught an Uber because you missed the wake-up shuttle, is that right?
I think so, yes.
Do you remember that? Do you remember going to the meeting point and it had gone, or you saw it driving away? Do you remember anything about that?
I think we saw it driving away, and then we checked when was the next one, and the next one was way later, so we just decided to order an Uber.
So you didn't mind paying for the Uber even though you'd gone into town to save... I withdraw that. You think one of the reasons you went into town was not just to save money, but also because they didn't sell wine at Wake Up, is that right?
I think so.
And did Theo offer to pay for the Uber?
Yes, because I think he offered to pay because I just paid for the wine.
And Do you remember anything about how Theo ordered the Uber? Did he seem to know what to do? Was there any discussion about ordering the Uber?
Not really, just ordered the Uber through his phone, and then he showed me his phone because it was quite new.
Oh, tell us
that's
about
all.
that. Can you tell us more about what he said about his phone?
He just told me that he bought his phone in Australia, I think, and that it was quite new, and that's pretty much.
And so he was quite happy with it?
Yes.
And do you remember anything about what happened in the Uber going from the town and back to the hostel?
Nothing in particular. I think we just continued our chatting.
Do you remember whether the driver was doing any of the chatting? You know, sometimes Uber drivers like to have a chat.
I don't think he was chatting with us.
You don't remember an Uber driver talking about beach parties?
No.
No. Were you talking about what you wanted to do that night?
Not at that stage, I don't think.
Do you remember Theo using his phone while he was in the Uber, like to look at Instagram or to send a message?
I don't recall, but as I said, it didn't appear to me that he was on his phone at all, except maybe for ordering the Uber.
We have records that suggest that the Uber arrived at about 8 o'clock or 2 minutes past 8. And we also have another record that shows that Theo was sending messages to his stepsister saying, "I'm definitely going out tonight, and sorry if I'm slow to reply." So it seems from that message that Theo had decided that he was going to go out into the town that night. Does that refresh your memory at all about whether or not you were talking in the Uber about what you wanted to do later?
Not really, I don't remember, sorry.
And so then you went back to the Wake Up hostel, is that right, to the terrace?
Yes.
And I think you were there for about an hour and a half. Did you go back to the table that you were at the start?
Yes, I think so.
Do you remember there was a heater and people were moving near the heater? Is that something you remember?
It is possible, yeah.
And do you remember did you open the wine?
I think we opened the wine when we arrived back at the hostel, and then we started to drink with the others.
What kind of cups did you have for the wine?
I don't know, but surely the cups from the kitchen, maybe.
And do you remember how many people were drinking the wine?
At least British girls, and the other people we went out with then, but I don't recall them.
I understand, Antoine, that when this was happening, you weren't thinking you would be asked questions about it 2 years later. But we are going to ask you more questions about the wine because it's important for us to understand how much Theo may have drunk that night. So the only reason we're asking a lot of these questions is just to try and understand how much he may have had to drink. You understand? Yes.
Yes.
Do you remember Theo refilling his glass from the goon, or did you at any stage refill his glass from the goon cask?
I don't remember these details, but I think he had more than one glass or cup.
Why do you think he had more than one?
Because I guess I don't know, but I think everyone had more than one cup of wine because we were definitely less than 8, I think. So when we left, I don't mind taking the box of wine back in my room or something. So I guess some people just filled some in the cup.
Do you think you were drinking at about the same pace as Theo?
I can't say this, but maybe.
You said in your statement you don't think you had that much because you didn't like it much?
Sorry?
You said in your statement you don't think you had very much because you didn't like it very much?
I didn't like it's
the
oh
wine?
yeah. No, it was cheap wine, so not really good wine.
Do you remember people talking about that, like sipping it and saying, "Oh, this is disgusting"? Was there that sort of talk?
No, I don't think so.
Do you remember Theo saying anything about whether he liked it or hadn't liked it?
No.
Did he see or do anything which suggested to you that he'd had a lot of wine?
No.
How many glasses do you think you would have had? Would you have had 2 or 3 or more?
Maybe 3.
Maybe 3?
Yes,
And
but
again-
I don't really remember
Yes.
the amount or the number of cups I had.
Yeah. Had you had much to drink the night before if you were feeling unwell? Do you remember?
I didn't drink that much the night before. I remember, I think I went to bed not that late, and that I had a good night. And
What kind of tolerance for alcohol did you have at that time? Were you drinking most nights because you were having a holiday and having fun?
no, not really. I just traveled from Sydney, and then I went to the campsite, and I didn't drink at the campsite, and not that much during my trip in Australia actually.
Would 3 glasses of wine have an effect on you? Would that make you feel tips? Do you know the word tipsy?
Yes, but no, I don't think so.
No. So
Not that wine.
very early on, after Theo disappeared, a couple of weeks later, that you had an email from a police officer called Phil Parker. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And he was also asking about the wine and how much you and Theo may have had to drink. You remember that?
Yes.
One of the things, I've just read out one of the things that you said in the email. You said, the cask of wine contained, I think, 2 litres, in brackets, it was a very cheap wine. We drank it at the hostel, and I think maybe 1 or 2 other people who we were with may have drunk as well. Nothing was left over. Is that right, that maybe 1 or 2 other people at the hostel were drinking as well?
I really don't recall, but because we were more than 2 with Theo, we were at least, as I say, maybe 4 or 5, 6, 7. I don't really remember, and I don't know who drank what. So, but I guess we shared because it's usually how it's done.
It's how you would behave, is to offer it to other people, to be polite.
Yes.
There is some evidence before the coroner that people weren't drinking much, partly because it wasn't very good wine. Do you remember
Sorry.
anything about that?
Can you repeat?
Yes. Some of the people who have given evidence to the coroner said that they didn't have much because it wasn't very nice wine. Is it possible that the other people who were drinking weren't having very much at all?
I don't know. Maybe they had 1 cup, 2 cups. I don't know, 3 cups. I can't say.
You told the police officer that there was nothing left. How do you know there was nothing left?
I don't remember. I don't know if someone maybe put it in the trash or I don't know.
Yeah, because with a cask, it's in a box. You can't see what's left inside. How would you know? How would you normally know whether there was some left or not?
I guess when you pour it, there is nothing coming out.
Yeah. Was your memory better on the 18th of June when you sent this email than it is now?
I guess because it's been more than 2 years, so I don't remember all the details.
Just based on what you can remember about Theo, is it possible that he had a very large amount of this 2-litre cask? Do you think that's something that's possible?
It's possible, but he didn't seem that drunk or tipsy.
You didn't notice him having refill after refill?
No, not to me.
You, at some stage, the group decided to go to Cheeky Monkeys, is that right?
Yes,
Do you remember whose idea it was or why you all decided to go out?
not really.
Do you remember anything about cheap drink cards or wristbands that could get you drinks?
They may have had some. I heard that Monkey was maybe cheap and that there was happy hour or something maybe.
Like maybe 2 for 1 drink?
Yes, maybe, but I'm not even sure.
When you went with the group, I think when you went to the shuttle bus, you sat next to Theo, is that right?
I think so, yes.
Do you remember then if you were talking about what you wanted to do that night, like dancing or hearing live music, any of those sorts of conversations?
I don't remember this, but I think we had. I suppose we talk about what we're gonna do, or but I don't know.
Do you know if he was keen to keep drinking? Did he say anything like, I want to have a big night, have lots of drinks?
He didn't say anything about what time he wanted to go back or anything. So no, we didn't have like planning comments because we just met. So
You were sitting next to him on the bus. You would have been able to smell his breath if he'd had a lot of alcohol, is that right?
I could have smelled something, but I didn't it didn't take me off.
You didn't notice anything about the way he was speaking?
No.
And again, I know I'm asking you a lot of detail. Do you remember him using his phone on the shuttle bus?
No, I don't remember.
Okay. Do you remember when you arrived on the shuttle bus if there was a discussion about which bar to go to?
No, I don't.
Do you remember how you found Cheeky Monkeys? Did you leave the group because you'd been there the night before?
I think the people we went out with were in Byron Bay for a longer time than me, so they may have just led the thing.
Do you remember seeing Theo look up anything on Google Maps?
No.
I'm going to show you now some more CCTV footage from Cheeky Monkeys, and then, like before, I'll ask you some questions while we watch.
Okay.
Just came up a little bit. Oh, that's all right. Can you see that now, Antoine?
Yes.
Is that the group arriving at Cheeky Monkeys?
I think so, yes.
You say in your statement that you don't think Theo would have been drunk at this stage because the security guards may have noticed or done something. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Can you remember anything at this point about whether it seemed that Theo seemed drunk or unsteady on his feet?
No.
Do you recall it being very cold?
Yeah, I remember it was cold night.
Just watch this. Do you see there that Theo momentarily seemed to lose his balance or step back so he didn't collide with somebody?
Can you replay it, please?
Did you see that, Antoine?
Yes.
Do you recall seeing Theo have any trouble walking or any issues with his balance?
No, I don't recall.
How were you feeling at this point? Were you feeling affected by alcohol?
So sorry?
How were you feeling? Were you feeling affected by alcohol?
No, I don't think so.
Do you see what you're holding there, Antoine? Do you know what that was?
Sorry?
We'll just replay it for you. Is that just you putting your ID back in your wallet? You seem to be holding something in your hand at that point.
My phone?
Okay, your phone.
Hmm?
In a moment, you're going to come back out again. Do you remember why you're going back outside at this point, Antoine?
Not at all.
Was it something to do with drink cards or happy hour or anything of that nature? You remember anything about that?
No, I don't remember these details.
Do you see how Theo seems to be using his phone there?
Yes.
Do you have any information for us about what he might have been doing with his phone?
No.
Was he using it like that at other times during the night?
No, I don't think so.
You seem to be holding a card there, and Theo seems to be looking at a card. Does that refresh your memory about what you might have been doing at that point?
I have no idea. Can you just give me a second? I need to get a charger.
Sure. just let us know when you're ready again, Antoine, because I can't see you. You're good to go? Right.
Yep.
We'll keep showing you some footage now of the bar.
Hmm.
We might fast forward this footage a bit. While we're doing that, Antoine, do you recall how many drinks you had while you were at Cheeky Monkeys?
Not really, but more than, I would say more than 2 beers. I don't know.
I know I'm pushing you, but more than 4 beers?
Sorry?
Would it be more than 4 beers?
I have really no idea.
I think you said that you didn't drink any spirits, is that right?
Yeah, I usually don't drink spirits, so I don't think I did.
I understand you say you had more than 2. Did you have a lot?
I was a bit tipsy when I went out from Chicken Monkey, that's sure.
Mm-hmm. That's why I'm asking you, because we're trying to understand if that was because of the wine that you drank at the hostel, or whether it was more the drinks that you had at Cheeky Monkeys.
I would say the drinks at Chicken Monkeys, yeah. Because I went out from Chicken Monkey more tipsy than when I went in.
Do you recall how fast you were drinking at Cheeky Monkeys?
No, I don't.
If we just go back to that footage and we'll just replay it from when people come in. Can you see Theo talking there to Sandra? Is that right, Antoine?
Where?
I'll just pause it momentarily. Can you see the cursor there?
Oh, yeah, okay. Yep.
Do you recall anything that Theo was saying at this point at the booth?
No. I just remember that inside the Chicken Monkey, we didn't talk anymore that much together because there were other people and we just started to meet the other ones more in details. More deeper, I mean.
You were talking a lot to a girl called Annika, is that right?
I think so.
Do you see here that there's a man coming over to the table?
Yeah.
You remember what he's saying or why he's come over?
No.
Do you see now that the group seems to be about to leave?
Yes.
Do you recall anything about this?
Not at all.
That's a long time after. I don't think. I'll ask.
You see Theo drinking his beer there?
Yeah.
Recall anything about why he was drinking it all in one go?
No. I don't know why.
Now, I think you've said both in your statement and again today that you don't really have much of a memory of interacting much with Theo from this point on, is that right?
Yes.
You say that the last time that, in your statement, you say the last time you remember seeing him was in the bar area.
Yes.
You also say that Theo brought you a beer while you were sitting down and talking. Is that right, that he brought you a beer? Did he buy you a beer?
I think he bought me a beer because he still owed me some money, but I don't remember if we went together to the bar or if he brought me at the table.
And did you ever buy him a beer or buy him any drinks?
I don't remember this, no.
Do you remember seeing anybody else offer Theo a beer or spirits or anything else?
No, but he chatted with some other people, so maybe he offered beer to someone else, and then this person offered him it back. I don't know.
You say in your statement that there was no real plan to leave together or anything like that?
No, because we were all from the same hostel, and that we could come back together or not, or I don't know. But there was no plan, no.
Were you expecting him to say goodbye?
Maybe, yes. But
Was there?
I had no expectations towards no one, so...
What about the next day? Did you think you were going to see each other the next day? Did you have any plans to catch up at some stage?
I thought we would maybe, see each other in the morning, or like for breakfast, during the breakfast, or I don't know.
Did you talk about that?
And no, but because both from birth, we got on well.
Yeah.
So I guess that we would catch up before or.
So he was someone you were probably going to look out for the next day or around the hostel?
Yeah.
I'm just going to show you one more clip, Antoine, from the Cheeky Monkeys.
Mm-hmm.
This is the corridor that leads to the toilets.
Mm-hmm.
You'll be coming into the footage soon. Is that you, Antoine?
Yes, I think so.
We understand that to be Theo. Do you recall seeing him in the toilets?
No, I don't recall that part. No.
Do you recall saying hi or having a chat or anything like that at that point?
No.
You ended up, you left that night, Cheeky Monkeys. Why did you decide to go home?
Because I was still pretty tired of my campsite job. And that I was about to start another job. So yes.
You said in your statement, I was a bit drunk leaving Cheeky Monkeys. Do you recall when you first noticed that you were feeling a bit drunk?
I guess when I noticed it, I wanted to go home, to go to the hostel, I guess.
Did it come on fast Like 1 minute you were feeling fine and the next minute you were feeling a bit drunk?
I don't know.
When did
I don't know.
When did you notice? When you got outside or beforehand?
I guess beforehand.
You walked back to Wake Up Hostel with Annika?
Hmm.
And I think you used Google Maps, is that right?
Hmm. Yes.
Did you find that easy or hard to do, to use Google Maps to go back to the hostel?
I think it was rather easy.
Were you following on the blue dot where you were going?
Yeah.
And on that walk, did you see anything or anyone that looked threatening or concerning?
No, I don't think so.
You didn't know that night that Theo had been asked to leave Cheeky Monkeys?
No.
He had your Facebook. He could contact you on Facebook Messenger. Is that right?
Yes.
Did he have any other details for you? Did he have your phone number or WhatsApp or anything like that?
No, I don't think so.
If he had tried to contact you on Facebook that night after he left Cheeky Monkeys, would you have known about it? Did you have notifications of a Facebook message?
I had the notifications on, but I don't think I was on my phone during the night, or except when I used Google Maps.
If you're using Google Maps, there would be a notification that would pop up if he'd messaged you. Is that right?
Yes, sure, yeah.
I haven't got long to go, Antoine.
Mm-hmm.
The next day, you say that you got up and you had breakfast in the main area of the hostel.
Mm-hmm.
Were you looking out for Theo? Were you looking to see if you could find him?
Yeah, and I think that's the moment I sent him a message, because I had to do the checkout in the morning and then leave. So
I'm going to put up on screen a message that you sent Theo.
mm-hmm.
I'll just move it up. Is that the message that you sent him?
Mm-hmm.
How would you translate that message into English?
Well, back home. You sent this regarding to last night.
Mm-hmm. Is that a bit like good return, ha, or is that like get home okay, ha?
Yeah.
Why did you send that message?
Because I didn't see him leaving or at the Cheeky Monkey, and that I don't know where it was. So I guess.
Did you think that there would be any trouble with him getting home?
No, not at all.
Why say, did you get home okay, rather than saying, where are you or how are you?
Because I just didn't see him coming home. When I go out with some people, they say if they're leaving or staying, or I don't know.
Oh, so it was because he didn't say goodbye?
I guess, yeah.
Is it because you felt a bit drunk after you were leaving Cheeky Monkeys and you thought he might have been feeling a bit drunk as well?
Maybe. Yeah.
Because I'm looking at the ha and trying to understand it.
Yeah, I know it's just something young people do in French,
Yeah.
at least. We just write a lot, haha, even when that's not funny, or it's the way of chatting.
You weren't Were you suggesting that he might have met a girl or something like that, or was it not like that?
No, I wasn't.
Did you know what room Theo was in at the hostel?
No, I don't think so.
So you had no way of knowing whether he'd come home that night?
No.
Can you think of any other reason, Antoine, why you would have been asking him if he got home safely or got home okay?
Because I think when I sent him the message, it was in the morning quite late, and because we got on well pretty much, I guessed I would receive a message because I was about to leave or something, but I'm not even sure.
You found out that Theo was missing after this point. When did you find out?
I found out when Lisa reached me out.
You ended up helping in any way you could to try and find Theo.
Mm-hmm.
You've helped with searches.
Yes, a little.
And you've spoken to the police to try and help them.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You've spoken to the legal team assisting the coroner.
Yes.
You've spoken to Theo's family.
Lisa and the godfather, I don't remember his name.
JP?
Yes.
Are you able to have any theory about what happened to Theo? Do you think he went to a party that night?
I don't know. I can't say anything. Anything could have happened, and I don't know.
It's something you would have thought about what might have happened? You don't have a theory yourself?
No.
Later, after you left Byron Bay, you heard that it had a reputation as being a place where people took drugs. You've said in your statement that you didn't have any understanding that Byron Bay was a place to take drugs at the time. Is that right?
It is because one of my good and close friends is from Melbourne, and when I arrived in Australia, I stayed at his family, and then he explained me about how he knows Byron. Yes.
And there was no talk of drugs or any interest from Theo about drugs?
No. No.
Thank you for your time, Antoine, and for your assistance. There are two other lawyers who may have questions for you.
Okay.
Palmer.
Thank you, Your Honour. Good morning, Antoine. My name is Claire Palmer. I'm the Counsel for the Commissioner of Police. I just have one question, and it concerns the Facebook message that was just recently shown to you. You'll see on that Facebook message that, I don't know if you've got a copy of there, it's Annexure C to your second statement dated the 23rd of November 2020. Mm-hmm. Perhaps might be able to be put up again on the screen.
Yep.
Antoine, we're just arranging for that to be put up on the screen. Antoine, I just wanted to clarify, it indicates there that the time you and Theo became friends was 11:35, but I presume that that's because there was an 8-hour time difference between the time at Byron Bay and the time in Brussels on 31 May 2018. Is that consistent with your recollection that you would have been connected with Theo on Facebook Messenger at around 7:35 p.m. on the night of 31 May 2019?
Yeah, I think so. At the hour of the barbecue.
Yes, at the barbecue. Does that consistent with your memory?
I think so.
And similarly, the last message on that printout says, you got home okay, ha, and it says that it was sent at 3:14 a.m. in the morning, but again, I presume that that's probably 8 hours ahead. Is it consistent with your memory that it was sent at around 11:14 a.m. on the morning of 1st of June 2019?
Yeah, in the morning and after, I think.
And around 11 a.m. also, mid-morning?
Yeah, for me it was more 10:30 because I think the checkout was 11.
Okay.
But it's possible.
Thank you very much. We have no further questions, Your Honour.
Thank you. Mr Evenden.
Thank you, Your Honour. Antoine, I'm asking some questions on behalf of Theo's family. A little later that day, after sending that Facebook message, you hitchhiked to Currumbin. You left Byron Bay. Is that right?
Yes.
And do you remember when it was you first spoke to police about Theo being missing?
Yeah.
You provided a statement to the police in Melbourne on the 11th of June. Had you before that time spoken to Byron Bay Police?
So I first spoke to the Byron Bay Police, and then I was reached in Melbourne by another officer, I think. And then I went to the other police station in Melbourne. Then.
All right. And when you first spoke to Byron Bay Police, before giving the statement in Melbourne, where were you?
So I went first to a job in Coroners Valley, I think. And I stayed there for a few days. I was supposed to work there maybe a few weeks, but I was kind of alone, and the job was not really, it wasn't really a job, it was a bit weird. So I decided to find something else, and then I went to another place not that far from Currumbin, I think. It was between Currumbin and Byron Bay at a family. It was a couple of older people.
And then did you return to Byron Bay and speak to police before going to Melbourne?
Yeah, so then Lisa reached me, and I didn't know what to do. I think she asked me if it was possible to come to the in Byron Bay, and then I just called my friend in Melbourne, and I explained him what was happening, and because I'm really close to his family, they just proposed me to fly after to Melbourne and spend a week together, and yeah. And then I had the statement in Melbourne.
But before you went to Melbourne, you went with Lisa to Byron Bay, is that right?
Yeah.
And did you speak to a police officer there?
Yeah, I think we spoke to a police officer there, yeah.
Was that do you remember where that was?
The day. I don't know if it was a statement or something, but I was there with Lisa and maybe some other people, but I don't really remember. But I don't think there was a statement in Byron Bay, only in Melbourne.
Did you go to the police station at that time?
In Byron Bay, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. Only with Lisa, not alone.
Right, and do you remember which officer you spoke to?
No, I don't know.
Okay. And it was shortly after that, a couple of days later, that you then gave your statement in Melbourne. Is that right?
Yes.
And then after that, Detective Parker, who's the officer in charge, got in touch with you and asked you for some further details over the email. That's right?
Yep.
So it was about 2.5 weeks later when you'd emailed him and he'd asked you about how much of the cask of wine had been drunk. And I want to ask you some questions about that cask of wine now, if I can. Are you aware that as part of the investigation, the police were able to get a receipt from the hotel or the bottle shop where you bought that wine to show that it was in fact a 2-litre bottle of wine? Sorry, a 2-litre cask of wine?
Can you repeat?
Are you aware that the police got a receipt that showed that it was a 2-litre cask of wine?
No, I didn't know.
All right. Well, you can take it from me. There's a receipt that shows that there's a 2-litre cask that was purchased of Di Bortoli Rosé and that it cost $11. So you can accept that that's been discovered by the police from that hotel.
Okay.
Now, you were asked some questions about why you'd bought that cask, and you said perhaps because we might share it with other people and because it was cheap. Do you remember saying that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I now want to take you to the barbecue, and you've indicated you were drinking and you can't remember how much Theo had, but you thought he had more than one cup. Do you actually remember leaving the barbecue to go into Byron to Cheeky Monkeys?
Yeah. We went to the shuttle.
Do you
and
remember
then to the centre.
Do you remember whether you had to rush or run to get onto the shuttle?
No, I don't remember.
All right. This wine, you didn't like it much, did you?
No, I didn't.
And you didn't drink much of it, you said?
I think I had maybe 2-3 cups.
All right. And I assume that given that you didn't like it, you probably weren't that worried about whether you'd hold on to it or not, if there was any left?
Yes, I guess, yeah.
So, is it possible that, in fact, the cask didn't get finished at all?
It is possible, but I really don't remember what we did with the remaining of the cask. If we, as you said, if we threw it somewhere, or if it was finished, I don't remember today what was the remaining.
All right. Do you think you would have cared much about the remainder of the cask if there was some there, in the context where you didn't really like that wine?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Regardless of how much of that wine was drunk, is it the case that your memory is very much that at the barbecue, Theo didn't seem drunk?
Yeah, it didn't seem to me.
And likewise, when you were lining up outside Cheeky Monkeys, it was the same situation? He didn't seem drunk?
No, because if he seemed drunk, I think he would have been refused at the entrance.
All right, and you've also indicated that once you were inside the bar, you remember Theo having a beer, but again, is it your evidence that he didn't appear to be drunk at that point in time?
Mm-hmm.
You said that he had talked to you about his phone. Do you remember actually seeing the phone?
Yeah, he showed me, and he just explained me that it was a new phone, and I just asked him if it was a good one, because I wanted to buy a new phone as well.
All right. Do you remember whether it had any sort of cover or case on it at all?
I think it had a case, like silicone case, but I'm not even sure. I didn't really pay attention to this.
All right, and another tricky question. Do you remember anything about how he would access the phone?
Yeah, there was under screen fingerprint. I think.
So it's obviously a long time ago, but you've had a conversation about the features of this phone. You're thinking about buying one. How clear are you about the fact that his access to the phone was a fingerprint?
I'm pretty sure it was a fingerprint. Yeah.
All right. And when you say you're pretty sure, do you remember whether that was something that Theo showed you?
I think when you unlock the phone, you see like a green circle where you put the finger. So
Did you?
And so because he told me about the brand and the model maybe. So, but I don't really remember any more details.
Did you, at any stage after he went missing, or after you had that conversation with Theo, go and look at Oppo phones?
I don't remember this, but I'm pretty much into technology and stuff like this. So I like. I know well new phones and new features, but I don't think I googled the phone after.
All right. Can you just excuse me for 1 second? Yeah, okay, sure. All right, I want to now just take you to the bar, and you've seen a little bit of footage. One thing that is known from the footage that was recovered is that shortly after entering the bar, you and Theo go and get a beer. Do you have any memory of lining up at Cheeky Monkeys to get a beer at the bar once you'd first entered?
Lining up, you mean if there was a queue or?
Well, just waiting to get a beer. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I think we got a beer together, and as I said, I think he owed me some money, and he just offered me a beer. Then I think something like this.
All right. Do you remember how long that process took of getting a beer?
Yeah, I don't remember, but I don't think it was long. I mean, I don't remember we waited a long time. So.
Or do you remember meeting anyone during that time?
No.
Right. While you were in Byron, did you hear anything about Tallows Beach?
No.
Did you hear anything while you were in Byron and before that night with Theo about beach parties at Byron Bay?
I think so, but I don't know from who I heard about this. Maybe some people at the hostel speaking about last. Not that night, and maybe, but a few nights before about beach fire or something like this. But I'm not even sure it's from people at the hostel or.
All right. You said in your email to the officer in charge, Phil Parker, about 2.5 weeks later that you don't remember Theo mentioning anything about the lighthouse. You'd been there that day. Do you remember any remember any conversation that you'd had with Theo about the lighthouse?
No, I may just have told him that I had a walk from the hostel along the beach to the lighthouse, but that's the only thing I may have mentioned.
All right. Had you ever heard of anyone in Byron Bay going to the lighthouse at night?
No.
When you left Cheeky Monkeys that night, did you feel safe going home through the streets?
Yes.
There's a note in the brief, sorry, I withdraw that. After you'd been to Melbourne, did you then come back to Byron Bay again?
I had booked 3 weeks IELTS preparation classes in Byron Bay, and everything was booked already. So when I flew to Melbourne, I flew back to Byron Bay to do my classes.
And what classes did you say they were?
IELTS preparation. It's an official exam, English exam.
Okay. So during that time, you were able to meet with Theo's family again, is that right?
Sorry?
During that time when you came back to Byron Bay, did you meet with Theo's family again?
I think it's when I met the godfather of Theo.
All right.
And Lisa as well.
All right. There's a note in the brief from the officer in charge that in early July you'd contacted him because you'd received because of some Facebook posts that were of concern to you. You remember what that was about?
From a Belgian person?
From an Aboriginal person?
No, from a Belgian.
A Belgian person. Okay.
Yeah.
And you brought those to the attention of the officer in charge, did you?
I think in my memories it was to a Belgian officer. I wrote to the Belgian police. Oh, maybe I'm sorry, I don't really remember, but I remember just that there was someone writing some things on Facebook or yes.
All right. Look, Antoine, those are all the questions that I have for you, but on behalf of the family, they do want me to thank you for your efforts, for coming back, for searching, for talking to them, and just the support and assistance that you've given the family. So thank you.
No, nothing wrong.
And Antoine, I would also like to thank you for making yourself available today. It's very much appreciated. And I'm sorry that you had to get up early and that it must have been difficult to do this with all your study. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Antoine.
Thank you. You're free to go. Thank you.
Do you have any more questions?
No, that's all. You're free to go. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Have a good evening. Goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
And Your Honour, can I thank the court staff too for accommodating the late sitting?
Yes, thank you to our court staff for sitting so late. Thank you. Unless there's anything else,
No.
we'll adjourn. So 10 a.m. tomorrow?
Yes, with Detective Parker.
Detective Parker. Right, we'll adjourn. Thank you.
Ladies all stand. This coroner's